want to join a study of the book of Daniel using 400-year-old footnotes. So the Geneva Bible was written in around 1560. This is apparently a 1599 version by English Protestants who escaped the Catholic persecution under Mary I and fled to Geneva. Apparently the first Bible that was translated from the Hebrew and Greek into kind of English for everyday people. King James absolutely despised the Geneva Bible, and this was mainly because of the extensive footnotes that you'll see. So when you see, this is all the footnotes for just the first part of the first half of Daniel. So these footnotes challenged some of the ideas about tyrannical kings, the divine right to rule. The Geneva Bible is what encouraged King James to create his own version in 1611 without any of the footnotes. The notes focus on obeying God over unjust rulers, which he really hated. So the book of Daniel follows Jeremiah's preachings about repentance because of Israel doing evil, and Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon, besieged Jerusalem and took some, including Daniel. King Nebuchadnezzar then renamed Daniel Belteshazzar, I'm probably butchering that, which means Prince of Bel, which is their god Baal. The book Bel and the Dragon used to follow Daniel but was taken out. I'll do a study on that separately. So these children, including Daniel, who'd been renamed, were taken and were part of the king of Babel, Nebuchadnezzar's court at the time, but they renamed them to kind of remove them from their Jewish identity. He was determined in his heart, so Daniel 1:8 is that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. So the footnote says, this is not that he thought any religion to be in the meat or the drink, but because the king should not entice him by this sweet poison to forget his religion, and that meat and drink he might daily remember of what he was. Daniel bringeth this to show how God from the beginning assisted him with spirit. So Daniel and his friends were under the control of the chief of the eunuchs, and he did listen, and he did just bring them water and pulses to eat and drink. So again, it is said in Daniel 1:12 in the footnote, not that it was a thing abominable to eat dainty meats or to drink wine, but as they'd done both before in the past, but if they should have hereby been won to the king and have refused their own religion, and that the meat and drink would be accursed. So after this 10 days, where they only drank the water and ate the pulses, it was found that their countenances were fairer and in better liking to all the other children. After this show of dedication, Daniel 1:17 says that God gave these 4 children knowledge and understanding and all learning and wisdom, and he gave Daniel the skill of understanding dreams and visions. In the footnotes, this says it means the liberal sciences and natural knowledge, not magical arts, which are forbidden. So he became a prophet. And at the end of the time he was appointed to stay with the King Nebuchadnezzar council, he was found that they had a better skill and understanding than all of the enchanters and astrologers in Babylon. And so he was kept on as like a prophet for Babylon. So verse 2 goes on to talk about the dreams that Nebuchadnezzar has. So this says the second year in the reign of Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 2:1. This states that in the footnotes that both the father and the son had the same name. So this was the son of the original king Nebuchadnezzar, who had taken Daniel and his friends out of Jerusalem and had them in the court. So this is when we start to get into the interpretation of the second king Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And so he had a dream with which his spirit was so troubled, because it was, according to the footnotes, such a rare and strange dream that he had not had anything like it before. So this king called all of the enchanters, astrologers and sorcerers from across the kingdom to try and interpret his dream. But he didn't just want them to interpret the dream, he wanted them to actually know the dream that he had as effectively a proof that they were properly interpreting and had prophetic knowledge. So the king gets very frustrated. So Daniel 2:5, the king said that your houses shall be made a jakes, which I looked up, and it's effectively a term for toilet. And the footnote says, it is a just reward of their arrogance, that they should be proved fools, and that their perpetual shame and confusion. So these astrologers, these sorcerers didn't actually have any God-given knowledge, they were just cheats. So the king gets so angry that none of them know his dream that he ends up sending the wise men away and put them all to death. And so Daniel and his friends were obviously on the line at this point. Verse 12-13 talks about this sentence, and the footnote goes on to say, God would not have his servant joined in the company of sorcerers and astrologers whose arts were wicked and justly ought to die. So Daniel finds out what's happened, and he goes to God to grace him with the secret, and so that they would not perish like the other wise men of Babel. And in verse 19, this is when the secret is revealed to Daniel in a vision by night. So in verse 24, Daniel goes up to Arioch and asks for it to be brought before the king to interpret his dream. So when he comes before the king, and the king asks about what he knows, and it says, "There's God in heaven revealed the secrets and showed King Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days." The footnote says that you can't understand these secrets by reason and art, but you can attain them only if they come from God. So it says he gave the king a certain fear and reverence of God, and that he might be more apt to receive the high mysteries to be revealed to him. So that sets the background. We're already at almost 7 minutes, so I will leave that there, and then we'll go on to the dream interpretation.